She stopped, just stopped, in the middle of a landscape that looked to every other eye present completely normal. No predator, no visible threat, no fire on the horizon. Just a 47-year-old elephant standing in the dust of the Amboseli Basin at 4 a.m., her ears half spread, her weight shifting forward onto her front feet. And then she turned. She pointed herself toward the northwest, toward a dry river valley 40 miles away that her herd had not visited in 3 years, and she walked. The Amboseli Basin in the dry season looks exactly like this. Dust, heat shimmer, the yellow-gray of grass that finished its work months ago, waterholes that have shrunk but not yet gone, zebra and wildebeest grazing at the edges of what remains. On the surface, this is not an emergency. This is just Africa in August, a landscape that has survived 1,000 dry seasons and knows exactly how to wait. The elephants have not left yet. Most of the herd is still at the main waterhole, a shallow pan that has been the group's anchor for 3 consecutive months. The matriarch has been here before. She knows this waterhole. She trusts it. Or she did. And then at 4 a.m. on the 3rd of August, the matriarch left, not toward the waterhole, away from it, northwest toward the dry bed of the Nairobi River, a route the herd had not taken in 3 years, toward water that, as far as any observable evidence was concerned, might no longer be there. The herd followed. Of course, the herd followed. There was no deliberation, no visible consultation, no moment of collective decision. She moved. They moved. 23 elephants, including 4 calves under the age of 2, turning away from the only water they had known for 3 months because she turned. 72 hours after the matriarch made that decision, the waterhole dried up, not shrank, dried. The last of the water table beneath it, drawn down by the drought that had been building for weeks underground, invisible, undetectable by any instrument the research team at the site was running, went. The pan became a plate of grey, cracked mud. The zebra and wildebeest that had stayed behind stood at its edges for 2 days before dispersing. The elephants were already 40 miles away, at a river bend that held water. Not much water, but water. They had arrived there 36 hours before the pan failed. They had left before anyone knew the pan would fail, before any instrument confirmed it. 72 hours before. Here is what she felt that morning at 4 a.m. Not heard, felt. Elephants communicate and sense through infrasound, vibrations below 20 hertz, below the floor of human hearing. These calls can travel through the ground for hundreds of miles. But what the matriarch was reading at 4 a.m. was something different. Not a call, a silence, an absence in the acoustic landscape that had been present the day before and was no longer there. The underground water table beneath the Amboseli pan produces a specific low-frequency signature as water moves through the substrate, a sound so low that no human equipment was detecting it at the research station 3 miles away. But the matriarch's feet were on the ground, and her feet are not just feet. An elephant's foot is not just a weight-bearing structure, it is a sensor. The soft tissue at its base, a fatty pad several inches deep, acts as both an amplifier and a receiver for low-frequency ground vibrations. The signal travels up through the skeletal structure of the leg and into the lower jaw, where another fatty tissue deposit, the mandibular fat pad, conducts the vibration directly to the inner ear. The elephant hears through its feet, through its jaw, through the bones of its face. The same biology that makes elephants exceptional at long-range infrasonic communication makes the matriarch capable of reading the ground like a seismograph. And she has been reading this particular ground for 40 years. But the sensing is only half of it, because the ground tells you something is changing. It does not tell you what to do about it. For that, you need something that no instrument and no young elephant possesses: a map. A 40-year map of where the water was and is and could be again. In 1993, the Amboseli Basin experienced its last major drought of comparable severity. The matriarch was 7 years old. She walked that route with her own mother, a matriarch who had survived the drought of 1974 and who knew from that experience where the deep water in the Enger riverbed held longest. That knowledge passed from mother to daughter, root by root, waterhole by waterhole, in the way all elephant knowledge passes, by walking it together. What the matriarch felt at 4 a.m. on August 3rd, she had felt once before. She was 7. She remembered. In 1988, researchers studying the Amboseli population documented something that took years to understand. Herds whose matriarchs had been killed by poachers, herds now led by females in their 20s, experienced by any normal standard, were making different decisions during drought events, moving later, choosing routes that had held water in normal years but not in severe ones, arriving at water sources that were already dry. The knowledge gap was invisible until it wasn't. You cannot see the absence of a 40-year memory. You can only see what happens when the herd needs it, and it isn't there. The young female at the head of those herds was not failing. She was doing everything a lead female could do. She simply didn't have the map. Nobody had given it to her. It died with the animal who carried it. On August 6th, at approximately 6 a.m., the herd reached the bend in the Enger-Nairobi River. The water was there, not a lake, not a flood, a narrow channel in a dry riverbed, shaded by yellow fever trees, running slowly through sand, but running. The calves entered the water before the adults had finished drinking. The matriarch stood at the bank for a long time before drinking. She didn't rush. She has done this before, arrived at water she knew would be there, at the end of a walk that looked inexplicable to every other eye. Back in the Amboseli Basin, 42 miles behind them, the pan was dry. It had been dry since the afternoon before. The matriarch had been at this river for 6 hours when that happened. She didn't know that in the way we mean knowing. She just knew enough to walk. The law of the listening ground is not a metaphor. It is a biological system that has been refining itself for 50 million years. A network of sensing organs, memory structures, and knowledge transfer behaviors that allows a single animal to read the earth beneath her feet and act on what she reads. We don't have a word for what the matriarch did on August 3rd at 4 a.m. It wasn't instinct. Instinct doesn't require 40 years of experience to function. It wasn't intelligence exactly in the way we use that word. It was something between the two. A listening that was also a remembering. A decision made from the body upward, from the ground up, from the oldest layer of knowing available to any living thing. The threat to this system is not drought. Drought is what the system was built for. The threat is the removal of the animals who carry it. Every matriarch killed is a library burned. And in the Amboseli Basin tonight, 3 matriarchs over the age of 50 are alive. 3. The ground is still speaking. The question is whether anyone with 40 years of learning to listen will be there to hear it.